will speak, yeah, but it cannot be somehow premature. So if the presiding wants to debate the subject matter, he has to recuse himself and come on the floor. That's the procedure. That's the procedure.
Can we mark the exhibit so we can swear in the witnesses? Yeah, you won't be successful on that. I know there will be numerous attempts. We got a quasi-judicial hearing. We have a quasi-judicial hearing. The rights and liberties of individuals or corporations are involved. Therefore, we will proceed judiciously.
Is appearing before the members of the House of Representatives have a director of presence of allowing him. We also have
we are ready to mark the exhibits.
My name is Winston Blouden. I'd like to welcome you.
The first letter was exhibit 1, didn't win. 28 is exhibit 1. The next exhibit is what date?
July 19.
July 19 letter is exhibit 2, house exhibit. What's the next one?
July 20.
House exhibit, we are in a quasi-judicial hearing. I'm making a record. We're out of order. What's the next one?
Honorable Deputy, all fairness to you, you cannot keep ridiculing members of the legislature here by telling them the order. Honorable Deputy, there's the legislature, we are co-equal. You are only presiding officer. If you want to debate the subject matter, Honorable Deputy, then you have to come on the floor. That's the procedure.
Yeah,
and it appears that you are conflicted. It appears that you are conflicted. No one appears here today. What to do with what?
What date is that?
July 8th, June 29, the first response, and July 8th, the second response.
Okay, house exhibits in the subsequent order. Let the sergeant swear in the witnesses. All those who testify today give facts will be placed on the oath so you can give your facts and testimony in such regard. So the
Thank you, Honorable Presiding, Co-Presiding, Distinguished Colleagues. Honorable Deputy Speaker and Acting Speaker, Co-Presiding, my observation has to do with those that will be placed on an oath. My inquiry has to do with those that will be placed on an oath. To avoid placing the wrong person on an oath, I want us to know in a public manner who are those people that are about to be placed on an oath before we place the wrong person on an oath.
inquiry sustained. That's actually an excellent point. Honorable Chief Clerk, we need to know who's here today. Can the individuals introduce themselves before they be placed on an oath and what capacity they are here?
Honorable President, I'm Arcelormittal. I'm the Chief Operating Officer and acting CEO.
When it comes to the advice, we have a procedure here. You have to address the presiding officer, the co-presiding officer, and the
Honorable Presiding Officer, my name is Arcelormittal. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of ArcelorMittal Iberia. And I'm here as an acting CEO representing the company.
Information. Honorable Presiding Officer, co-presiding members of the legislature. That's the procedure. Honorable Presiding Officer, co-presiding members of the legislature. Or members of the House of Representatives. That's the procedure.
Can you please reintroduce yourself using the procedure just spelled out in gentlemen? You will address the presiding, the co-presiding, and the honorable member.
Honorable Presiding Officer and members of the House of Representatives, honorable members. My name is Adrian Strijdom. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of ArcelorMittal Liberia, and I'm here as an acting CEO, Chief Executive Officer of ArcelorMittal Liberia.
Honorable Presiding, Honorable Co-Presiding, Honorable members of the Honorable House of Representatives, my name is Marcus Ule. I'm the Head of Government and Community Relations at ArcelorMittal.
Honorable Presiding Officer, Honorable Co-Presiding Officer, and members of this august body, my name is Councillor Walker Julius Pega, and I'm the in-house legal counsel for ArcelorMittal Liberia. Thank you.
They didn't come as a lawyer, but they came as a member of the entity. We have to distinguish that lawyers don't speak here. No, lawyers don't speak here. If they came as a member of the entity, then he will speak as a member of the entity. But if he came as a lawyer to represent them, then he cannot speak. Oh no.
I'm here today in the capacity as an employee of ArcelorMittal.
Okay, and Mr. Acting CEO, you are here accompanied by counsel.
Observation, good. That's a very good question.
I know you want me to recuse myself, but
no, you are not recuse yourself.
Okay, then you will give me a chance to preside. Are you accompanied by counsel?
Yes, I am.
Okay, can you identify him?
It's in here.
Counsel, can you just introduce yourself to the plenary nosy?
Honorable Deputy Speaker and Presiding Officer, Honorable Co-Presiding, Honorable members of the House of Representatives. My name is Stephen Dunbar, the Dunbar Law Offices. I'm the External Counsel for ArcelorMittal. Thank you.
Can you place the witnesses on the hold?
The witnesses will be placed on oath by the acting sergeant at arms of the Honorable House of Representatives.
Come closer to the mic. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I,
Walker Julius Pega,
do solemnly swear that the testimony I'm about to provide in the presence of the Honorable Plenary will be the truth and nothing but the truth. So help me God. Raise your hand. Honorable Deputy Speaker, members of the 54th Legislature, I'm done, sir.
We'll call on the proponent of the contempt notice to make his case in chief, Honorable Vincent Willie from the We Nation.
Thank you very much, Honorable Presiding, Co-Presiding, distinguished colleagues.
Let me caution the Honorable General before you proceed. I'm sure you're aware we are dealing at this stage with only the contempt issues.
Honorable Presiding.
Information is a department. We call ArcelorMittal not just because of content.
I agree. What I want to do for this record is to deal with the content and then go into the other issues.
Honorable Presiding.
In session.
Honorable Co-Presiding, distinguished colleagues. Few weeks ago, plenary took a decision owing to the fact that we have written serial communication as deputies of the people, specifically to critique the second amendment of the Mineral Development Agreement between ArcelorMittal Liberia and the Republic of Liberia. As the people's deputy, we thought to cross-check some of the missteps of Metal over the years, the violations of the NDA that was signed had gone 16 years and some months. Metal, with no respect to the people of Liberia, refused to appear before us. That action imperiled the function of the legislature. Our function to serve the Liberian people in various sectors, most especially some of us from Grand Bassa County that host the headquarters of Metal. There are issues of compliance, the issue of healthcare. There have been concern across Nima, Bon, and Bassa. And it was on a backdrop. We thought that Metal would have appeared before us so that the Liberians will understand what have happened over the years. And 16 years plus and some months, Metal has not been able to fulfill some of the clauses, some of the actions that were in place within the MDA that would have benefited the Liberian people. Metal refused to appear before us on numerous occasions, as were read just in the communication. Metal decided to play delay tactic with us over the years. If you were to visit Nima today, our colleagues from Nima will bear me witness that the citizens of Metal, the citizens of Nima are grieving. Moved to Bon County, Grand Bassa County, and it was only because of that, when failure to appear, that imperiled our function, that undermined the function of the legislature. It was on our backdrop that they were asked to appear before us, specifically to come with the leaders that were being mentioned, their heads that were being mentioned, to state to us. And you can see again, colleague, even to the point that we asked them to come and show reason why they should not be held in contempt, they still could not inform us why the various heads are not here today. Still could not inform us. And that is why I continue, and I'm craving the indulgence of the plenary, that we hang the contempt charge over them and we proceed with the investigation. I crave the indulgence of my honorable colleagues that Metal be placed under contempt. We hang the contempt over them until the investigation continues. While I'm on my feet, colleagues, I'd like to pour more emotions that Metal stay on contempt. Colleagues,
you're making a case in chief,
and that is why.
If you make a motion, and we decide on that motion moving forward, I wanted to give one or two other proponents the opportunity to speak.
No problem.
All right.
So that is why I requested, colleague, and let me say thank to you, my honorable colleague, for granting our appeal. The people of Nima County, Bon and Bassa, our appeal, joint appeal, and the people of Liberia as a deputy, that Metal should appear before us to show reason why they should not be held in contempt for impairing our function as legislator and the deputies of the people, and I so submit.
You ask in support of Honorable Willie?
Can I make some more points, please?
In support?
Yes.
Okay. Honorable Texas.
Thank you, David. I've been opportunity to serve as Principal Director for Large Charge Republic of Liberia and Custom Commissioner Republic of Liberia. And I have noted, and this is not only an issue with Metal, that, hey, Deputy, can I make my case for the people in New Town? Thank you. Metal, like other corporations, have consistently disrespected people who have called them to attention And the point my colleague from Grand Baza has made is even more serious that we need to take an action. And I agree with him because when I served as Commissioner of Custom and our lifestyle director, many times this cooperation will be called to just make inquiry and or report to people who have oversight and they are refused. And so today I stand on the back of the Honorable for Grand Baza to say that we need to hang the contempt issues on Mittal and we can proceed with the investigation because this is not just about contempt, but it's also about letting the Liberian people know where we are as far as it relates to the issues that relate to Mittal. That's the case I want to make. Thank you, Mr. President.
I will take two more proponents. Honorable Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding, co-presiding colleagues. Mr. Presiding, I want to join my colleague from Grand Bassa County to say that Mittal should be held in contempt. And I'm coming from the backdrop that this is not Mittal's first year in Liberia. Mittal has been here, like he regularly said, for over 16 years. And Mittal agreement has come before the House before. It was ratified and that gave rise to the operation of Mittal in this country. So again, for Mittal to breach Article 44 of the Liberian Constitution by imputing this House, we believe it is contentious. It is based upon that, Honorable Deputy Speaker and Presiding, that this House should move into holding Mittal under contempt. So let us say, for the fact that Mittal knows how this House operates, because she has had an agreement here, she has appeared here to change the rules of appearance of witnesses before the House, it is contentious. The House invited Mittal to appear, and Mittal wrote this House asking that she wants to meet with the Chief Clerk office in order to schedule how her appearance should be. That is contentious, Honorable Deputy Speaker and Presiding. So based upon that, I think we should not waste more time on justifying the contempt. A motion should be raised, holding Mittal under contempt for us to move into the actual nitty-gritty of why they are here.
Final proponents. Honorable Larry Yahweh.
Right.
Thank you.
On TV, coming to you live from the chambers.
Thank you, Mr.
Of the House of Representatives.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Actually, I always like to look at the end result of any exercise I embark upon. What if we were to hold ArcelorMittal in contempt today? How do we consummate whatever the punishment will be? For example, in a few hours' time we'll be closing. If we were to say we are detaining them for contempt against us, their detention is not going to be lasting beyond the hours that we are yet to be in session. So we will have to hang the contempt over them.
Mr. Presiding, information.
Information.
Honorable Presiding, Honorable Co-Presiding, distinguished colleagues. Mr. Presiding, I think we call the ArcelorMittal company on a communication to show cause why they should not be held in contempt. They have not explained to us, and then my honorable colleague from Lima is going to come out with us hearing why. It could be your wife will be an excusable neglect of
No, you proceed it right there and then you want to, don't testify for them. I
No.
think information is
Right,
sustained.
okay,
Information is sustained until you hear from them.
Sure.
You can't raise motion to hold them in contempt.
No, sure.
Okay, so anything you raise right now is a proposal or a statement. So
Thank you.
conclude the
Thank
statement.
you. All right, thank you.
You hear from there. I just wanted to get the final proponent and then we will listen to Mittal. Yeah.
Well, I was not actually raising a motion, but be that as it may, let the flow has its will. Because we from Nimba are actually feeling very comfortable with this plenary today, that the rest of our brothers and sisters from the rest of the country are speaking for us, because we have done everything beyond closed door. I see the Basel representatives are here. I see the bond representatives are here. We know what we have gone through, especially we from the affected counties or districts. And so we respect the flow and then we let it flow as it's intended. Thank you.
Okay, at this point we will ask Mittal to respond to the allegations and show cause as to why he should not be held in contempt. Mr. Acting CEO, and we proceed.
Thank you. Honorable Deputy Speaker, honorable members of the House of Representatives, as I've introduced myself, my name is ArcelorMittal, Chief Operating Officer and Acting CEO of ArcelorMittal Liberia. Our CEO, Eusebius Hendrikus Koenen, has been out of the country on official company matters since July 11th, 2022, as well as to seek medical checkup, and is expected to return to Liberia on August 1st, 2022. He sends his regrets for his inability to be here today. I have a communication from our CEO concerning his inability to appear today and designating me to present him, a copy of which is available for his honorable body if necessary.
Copy of what?
A copy of the communication sent by Mr. Koenen concerning his inability to appear here today.
Does that include any medical certificate?
I can present, there is no medical certificate as yet. Let me go through my statement and then I'll explain that to you, Honorable. Honorable Mr.
In order right here.
The witness will be testifying from certain knowledge. Shouldn't be reading it for us yet. So let him just close that book there and tell us what the what I should wait until now. Let me read it. Let me read it.
No. We'll allow him to make his statement from whatever he prepared. So it's not on a cross-examination at this point. No, he can make his statement. It's quasi-judicial. It's quasi-judicial. So we will allow, we will permit him to read his statement. And we will enter his statement into the record.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, along with me are Mr. Marcus Via, Head of Government and Communication Relationship, Councillor Bokai, Head of Legal Department, and our external legal counsellor, Councillor Stephen B. Dunbar of Dunbar and Dunbar Law Offices. Honourable Presiding, on behalf of ArcelorMittal, I express thanks to you, Honourable Speaker, and members of the House of Representatives for the opportunity to appear before you today. And I want to clarify for the record that our inability to appear before now is in no way representative of any degree of disrespect or disregard for this honourable body. On the contrary, the brief time between the receipt of this honourable body's invitation and the necessity to adequately prepare the information requested is the reason we respectively requested an invitation be rescheduled. During the period between the original limitation and today, we have compiled and submitted the information requested by this honourable body, and we are prepared to provide such clarification and/or additional information as may be necessary. Honourable Presiding, once again, we re-emphasize that no disrespect or disregard was intended by our failure to appear as originally requested. We apologize for any inconvenience we may have inadvertently caused and respectfully request that this honourable body will consider and discharge/purge ArcelorMittal from any contempt. I thank you.
We will enter the statement for the record. Do we have any questions or inquiries? Comments I will limit to 2 minutes. Honorable Albert Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President, co-presiding colleagues.
Mr.
Mr. President, I will want for the witness to be very clear. The witness is speaking and he mentioning the inabilities of individuals. When Mark Cody, Honorable Civil from New Town, provided an information to our Cody from Grand Bassel, it was clear that the entity is bigger than individuals. So it means that in the case where individuals within the entity who are not capacitated to be here in the line of succession, others who are there who have also come. So I want for the witness to please answer this question. In the inability of individual name, is ArcelorMittal still operating or still running? Because if you are tying the inability of individuals who are to come here for a reason why they could not come, I want you to tell us whether ArcelorMittal is still operating in the inability of those people who you name.
So a question from the Honorable Albert K. Jones.
Please.
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Deputy Speaker or co-presiding fellow colleague, if they say the fellow who is abroad was a custodian of the information we're asking for, how come in less than 2 days or 2 weeks they say they got all the evidence here? That's my question. If you say the man is sick, seeking medication, he go on leave, and therefore you could not have the instrument that we requested here because of the illness, how come in less than 2 weeks they have brought all the instruments we asked for before?
Okay, so that's why I asked for us to proceed orderly. That was not in support of what he said, that was in addition. So let me answer the first question, which is, to paraphrase, in the absence of the individuals who you claim were unavailable, is Mittal still operating, or did the company shut down as a result of their inability to attend to their official functions?
Honourable Deputy Speaker, the answer to that question is yes, ArcelorMittal is still able to operate.
Okay, then the follow-up to that was...
How come now, in the space of time, they have made the instrument available waiting for...
No, just to correct you, the instrument was available at the time they sent the excuse. They sent the document. We do not know if they brought it. No, I was just clarifying for the record. Inquiry, go ahead.
Honorable Presiding, co-presiding, distinguished colleagues, my inquiry to the witness has to do with the justification he tried to give for them not appearing over the period of time we requested them. If we are holding everything constant, if we are to hold an argument constant, what is he doing here today? Since they could not come because the hairs have been sick and blah blah blah, if we will hold his argument constant, what is he doing here today as a deputy for operation?
Did you understand the question? You want me to repeat?
No, I understand the question.
Go ahead.
I'm here to provide a statement on the clarification on all of the inquiries that were there and for getting an understanding of what the situation is and that we have submitted information as requested.
Follow-up inquiry. Follow-up. If that is the case, why couldn't you? All of the time we requested, why couldn't you appear at the time? Why?
Honorable Member, that we have prepared all the information to be available so that it's being presented. So all of the information was gathered, and it took some time to gather all the information, and it's available and it was presented.
Follow up. A follow-up to what you said. We need a follow-up. A quick follow-up.
Honorable Presiding, co-presiding, distinguished honorable ladies and gentlemen. My question to the gentleman, the witness of stand, has to do with, does he have in his possession any documentation to substantiate what he has said concerning the illness of the CEO to support the presentation? That letter he has states that the CEO is sick. If there's something to verify or substantiate, does he have such? That's my question.
Honorable Presiding Deputy Speaker, I remember, yes, I have.
You have the statement.
I have the statement, and I can from Mr. Kunden, and I can also read it if need be.
The question is not a statement. Do you have a medical report? That's the question.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, I request that I can read the correspondence that was presented to me by Mr. Kunden.
No, you will answer the question that was asked, which is, do you have a medical, a document from a doctor or a person certified to practice to say, I am treating the gentleman in question, and for that reason he cannot appear. A self-service statement saying I'm sick is not sufficient evidence of the medical condition. So if that's what you have, just a statement from him that he is sick, we will take it into evidence, but it will not be dispositive of the fact. So you can present the statement.
Thank you. Honorable Deputy Speaker and honorable members, this was an email that was sent to me. It reads, Dear Adrian, I received your request to return to Liberia and lead a team of ArcelorMittal Liberia executives to appear before the plenary of the House of Representatives tomorrow on July 22, 2022. Unfortunately, I'm unable to appear because I'm out of Liberia in the United States of America on my rest and recuperation break. I left Liberia last week, 11th July, when I understood that the citation plan for 11th July was postponed to a day still to be established, but after my trip to the USA. As is customary, I always use this time to seek medical care from my service providers here in the States, including regular checkups. Because of the short notice of the citation to appear, my scheduled medical appointments will not allow me to return to Liberia in time. Therefore, being an acting CEO, I wish to nominate you to present me and lead the company's delegation to the plenary of the House of Representatives. Please extend my sincere regrets to the presiding officer and give him the assurance of my highest esteem in anticipation of a favorable outcome. As you know, my scheduled arrival back in Liberia is on the 1st of August, after which date I can make myself available for a meeting with Honorable Kofa. Would this be required? Best regards.
Okay, you can enter that.
Yeah, follow up.
We'll follow up, Honorable Gray.
That's a follow-up. The quick follow-up is that...
As a trial of fact, you will put it in the relevant... you give it? Yeah, as a trial of fact, you give it the relevant way. Honorable Gray.
Yeah, just a follow-up. Honorable Presiding, co-presiding colleagues. Honorable Vincent asked a germane question, and the response by the witness is what I took interest in. He said he was preparing the document that was requested. Did he put that in the communication sent to the House of Representatives? What his justification today does not represent the justification for not appearing in the two communications sent to us. Secondly, can he display to this plenary the communication? We want to see whether it's signed. We want to see whether that communication is signed or is a mere email. How do we believe or authenticate that the email of the individual was sent for? But we need to see the copy of that communication to be displayed to the presiding, the acting speaker needs to see that communication is important. The second question is that your excuse sent to the plenary is of dissonance, indifference to what you said today, that you're compiling pieces of information. So how can you reconcile your excuse sent to the plenary on two separate occasions to that of your statement today that you're compiling the information? How can you reconcile that?
Of course, this is Pana TV coming to you live from the chamber.
Since communication was distributed, the correspondence for Mr. Yukunen to appear, we have gathered all of the relevant information, made it available, and Mr. Marcus has submitted that information. He also has some evidence showing that he has submitted information. Mr. Kunen's non-presence here is due to medical reasons, so we have addressed the situation by gathering all of the information, distributing it, and purely Mr. Kunen is not able to be here, and that was our action. I was given here.
No, my question is clear. My question to the winners, honorable presiding, co-presiding colleagues, is that you wrote this distinguished plenary on two separate occasions, providing excuses for not appearing or appearing for time to appear. In your justification for not appearing, you said something different from what you have said today. So how can you reconcile between what you said that you're compiling information to tell us that you want to appear because A, B, C, D, different reasons? How can you reconcile those two reasons? One, that means you honor oath. And I want you to remember that you are honor oath. And if you like honor oath is perjury, honor the laws of the Republic of Nigeria. You are placed on oath. So tell me, what's the difference between the communication you said for providing excuses and giving another justification why you didn't appear? And this justification you are providing today, you did not provide that justification in the two separate communications. That's my concern.
Observation.
If you need,
observation.
He's only witnessing. If he needs to take a break to consult his legal counsel, we can give him 5 minutes. But counsel, you can't be whispering in the ear.
Observation.
So do you need just 5 minutes?
Observation.
Okay, we're giving him 2 minutes to consult. Okay, go ahead, observation.
What I was honorable presiding, co-presiding, distinguished colleagues, perhaps it is his first time. And he continued to, I observed that the lawyer, their extended counsel, trying to make some movement. Here in the legislature, the client speak through the lawyer in the courtroom, but in the legislature, the lawyer speak through the client. And that's why I just want to say, so he needs to know that rather than moving, I see a lot of movement for him. That's the observation I like to say here very clear.
Okay, we'll give them 2 minutes.
So the presiding officer I've now allotted 2 minutes to a ArcelorMittal team in presenting a case to members of the House of Representatives. And of course, I heated to the right here. And I have the Director of Press of the Honorable House of Representatives, Honorable Robert Holmes. I also have the clerical staff. And the co-presiding officer for today is the Honorable Yakaworo Korban of the House of Representatives. So consultation is ongoing right here. And I can see this consultation is ongoing right here. The legal team of ArcelorMittal Liberia, and of course the chairman on legal counsel is briefing the deputy CEO of the company on how to present a case, because there have been one or two jittery as it relates to the presentation. This is Banner TV coming to you from the House of Representatives. While they are carrying on a legal consultation, the deputy speaker is also going ahead carrying on some legal consultation with some members of the House of Representatives. I see you representing Akaros Mosegwe, and as we move on right here. So yeah, our members of the House of Representatives, and of course Moxarot County, Grand Bassa County is also here on this day. And moving on, and I see Representative Dixon Sibo, the Honorable Rostadin Swakoko Dennis, Eddie Atol, Representative Abu Bana Kamara, and other people all here today on this issue right here.
But a letter from the
Spotted camera trying to talk to the witnesses right here.
Okay, before we got signal from the witness that he was ready to resume testimony.
So the witness is back on the...
Honorable Deputy Speaker, I have a discussion with my colleagues, and I would like to refer the matter to my colleague, Mr. Marcus Nguya.
Mr. Marcus, you answer the question?
Mr. Marco Nguya.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, Honorable Presiding, Honorable Member of the House of Representatives, just as our acting CEO said, the reasons are actually the same, but I would like the honorable body and my own representatives to please consider our honest and earnest apology to the honorable body. So please consider our earnest apology to the honorable body to please allow us to proceed to the
Honorable Gray, you need to stop filibustering the witness.
I don't feel the boss.
You need to stop filibustering the witness.
You can't be like going to hard time this conversation. You cannot pray. You have to give the witness the opportunity to express himself. He has a right to stand and apologize to the body.
Yeah, but he lied to us. problem. Sorry, sir.
Proceed.
Honorable Presiding, Honorable Co-Presiding, Honorable members of the the Honorable House of Representatives, in response to the Honorable lawmaker, as I was saying,
What's the order?
as we were saying,
The institution is being represented by the highest order. If there's an apology, it cannot be coming from someone on the highest order. We need to respect that. This is the Honorable House of Representatives. The CEO or the acting CEO needs to get the stand. If it's an apology, he needs to make it. And not somebody who is subordinate to the CEO. Thank you.
And you say you're going to consult a lawyer for 2 minutes. You say you're consulting a lawyer for 2 minutes to answer my question. That's what I stand for. 2 minutes, you are not consulting a lawyer to answer a question that we raise. That's the procedure. You cannot escape that question. Yes.
Another witness on the oath to answer. As for Honorable Sibyl's issue of apology, I consider it repetitious because the acting CEO also apologized, and so this apology is in consonance with what they had as
information. Since you were appointed to answer the question.
You want me acting information.
So, Honorable Presiding, with all due respect to the highest office here, a question was asked and you asked them to give 2 minutes, and we accepted that. So why don't you ask someone to answer the question, then you go to the question before talking about that apology. That apology is a mockery to this August body.
Information.
Honorable Presiding, Co-Presiding, distinguished colleagues. The information I'd like to provide is that when plenary invites the head or whosoever that appear for that institution in the higher up, before a technician can speak or can take the stand, the head will say this aspect of the discussion falls on this majority for honor utilization, and thereby action. Apology is not anywhere in governmental affairs. Because the introducing a hair of governmental affairs. This apology has nothing to do with governmental affairs, and that is not a technical issue. So the subordinate cannot take the stand to speak on behalf of that. Thank you very much.
No, you have to give me chance. It appears to be first procedurally, let me address the issue. I don't think you were listening when he got up and said he was designating his junior officer to respond. But it seems to me that's something critical because we are about to get to the point where decision has to be made on this issue of contempt. Missing in my mind on the record, which will inform as to what the veracity of ArcelorMittal is the issue of the medical condition which gave rise to the absence and the excuse in the first place. So I would think they're not at the LRA. I would think that the presence of that document is germane to that hearing, without which a decision cannot be adequately made. So I will entertain a motion in that regard.
You say you're going to set up on 2 minutes. They made a contradictory statement here, and you ask. You on record. Let me answer the question.
Go ahead and answer the question, but don't apologize because I think you also apologize. Yeah? If you don't want to say it, then repeat the question.
Honorable Presiding, Honorable Presiding, Honorable Co-Presiding, Honorable Member of the Honorable House of Representatives, the reasons that we provided are consistent throughout. They included short notice, length of time.
Read the letter. We need to read the communication that they wrote and what they're saying. We need to play the two communications. You said before the alligator before I said it's
witness to tell us that we are invited on short notice is an affront to Liberia. We as people, we can call you as and when it may be. You have to appear. You cannot be telling us on short notice. That order needs to be placed into place. Thank you.
Honorable Co-Presiding, Honorable Member of the House of Representatives, we wish to state for the record that our reasons have been consistent, and we kindly request that in the spirit of the original apology that was presented, if there are any oversight as is deemed in what we said, that be taken out of the spirit of the apology so that we can move on. Thank you.
Honorable Willie will follow.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Acting, Honorable Presiding, distinguished colleagues. Colleagues, while it is true that we try by all means to get at a conclusive point, there are key information given to us here today by the acting CEO and the Chief Operating Officer that over the period of time their consistent refusal to appear before the people delegates has been because their head has been hospitalized, there's been medical issues, and we as citizens and as a people delegate, we are so concerned about our corporate partners. To conclude this conversation and to put it in motion, I will advise you move, and I move that, if I can be second, that Meta go and come with a medical justification that will set the basis for us making a decision on a contempt charge. We cannot conclude this conversation because we don't want tomorrow to say what the man was saying and the host refused and blah, blah, blah. So until you can provide that medical report, this plenary will not take a decision. So and I move, if I can be second, that Meta come with a medical report of the CEO and contempt be placed on them while we go for research of our return and return with that no. Until Meta go, I move if I can be second, that Meta come with the medical report of the CEO one, that Meta again appear before us upon our return with the medical report of the CEO, a justifiable medical report, not just a flying sheet, a detailed medical report, justifying the failure of the CEO appearance, and then the second one, that they should be also prepared when they are coming to state to us why they should not be held in contempt. And I so submit. It means that the contempt hearing is inconclusive. Yes. Until that medical report is being brought before plenary, and I so submit.
It has been moved and seconded that the contempt hearing be continued until such time that a certification from our medical practitioner is available on the CEO who was invited and whose testimony was the basis for the excuse. Are you ready to vote? We're ready. Honorable Powell.
Honorable Speaker, Honorable Co-Presiding, fellow colleagues, I will be ready to vote when the movement can allow this simple amendment. The time frame should be in October, where we get the whole teams of the ArcelorMittal to deal with the issue properly and get it done.
They were coming to that is the one who
Colin, thank you very much. You know you are head of that is accepted for you. We just said the first week of our return. So the chief player has the notice. So it just takes what you just said. So the first week of our return, the chief player will notify them. So they hereby accepted.
Very good. Very simple.
I'm calling from Grand Bazaar. Mittal is so dear to you and Mittal is dear to the entire country. Are we ready to vote?
They are not dear to me. They are exporters.
If somebody is making 800 million investment, the person is a serious person. We need to consider that. I will be ready to vote if Mittal today can address the critical issues that have been called for, and once we keep the contempt,
obviously.
But today is a day that we hear the critical issues because the people in Grand Bazaar, the people in Bon County, the people in Nimba, Mansavaro, people in Nickel Town, we are concerned about Mittal. So I'll be ready to vote, my dear brother, we who have not disappointed me.
Exactly.
To vote until Mittal can be able to do some business today. Thank you very much.
Well, I don't know to do it.
You speak man. What made you speak like you? You are
not co-presiding the single school. I think my colleague from Maserado County, Honorable representing the people of Newtown, just made it clear and were earlier stated. And so I accept upon the conclusion of the continuation of the content charge, we will immediately start the debate on the following issue, on the substantive of the other matter. So
all those in favor make it look at all those in favor make it look and say aye. We're getting information. We will ask the chief clerk to read what the previous
So we move on right here. Bana TV, the contempt remains hanging on the heads of ArcelorMittal. He will go and return with the law, with the medical report following the first week in October, which the lawmakers will return from recess. So the main issues as it relates to the investment, alleged malpractice, and other things is up next. Listen to the communication being read by the Deputy Chief Clerk.
With provisions of the Mineral Development Agreement with the Liberian government, especially those referencing housing, health and educational facilities, safe drinking water, railroad, concentrator, organizational charts reflecting local and foreign management or administrative and working staff, and the competence blueprint of operations. Best regards, sincerely, Major NCO Chief Clerk. Madam.
Having listened to the reading of the communication to ArcelorMittal, what is your will and pleasure?
Chairman.
Mr. Presiding, I observe that the co-presiding has Mr. Presiding, colleagues, Mr. Presiding, following or during the conversation around the contempt charge, we said that following that conversation we will proceed to discussing the substantive of the matters surrounding the operations of ArcelorMittal. With that said, and having followed the conversation, the reading of this communication, which is really self-explanatory, I move, if I can be seconded, that this communication as read be accepted by this honorable plenary, and that the discussions as requested by this communication commence and ArcelorMittal be given the floor to present what the letter is requesting, and at the end of that presentation there will be a decision reached by this honorable plenary, if I can be seconded.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed no. Honorable Master, I think you still have the floor to contest what is in the letter.
Mr. Presiding, honorable co-presiding colleagues, my esteemed colleagues.
On Marcus Consequence Pass. No. You can't be making a motion when it's a proponent of this argument. No.
Mr.
Presiding, you're not presiding well.
The last time I checked Honorable Sibo was a highly respecter of the presiding, and I hope, I am more than sure that will continue even beyond this presentation. Having said that, Mr. Presiding, on a serious note, co-presiding, esteemed colleagues, Mr. Presiding, the issue of Mittal has lingered in the corridor of the legislature for quite a long time. And in my view, it is about time for us to draw some working formula as to how we resolve this issue. Mr. Presiding, I'd like to premise my presentation in this fashion. To the best of my recollection, the leadership in the 53rd, the leadership in the 54th have shown beyond reasonable doubt that we stand to encourage investors, not just ArcelorMittal, but all investors, because in our view they help to shape the health of our economy. We've lived all these years trying to prove that, and this house has proven that sufficiently. However, the issue of Mittal requires attention. Mittal has operated in this country for 16 unbroken years. This is, to begin with, this is the only company that even as we speak, and my colleagues from NIBA, I'm sure will agree with me, that the housing facility, our colleagues from the Senate visited, our colleagues from the House, I'm sure it was under the leadership of Honorable Tampoe, visited the mining site, the company site of Mittal. And I'm not trying to overstate the reality that contrary to the MDA, that ArcelorMittal will maintain and improve the facilities of LAMCO JV company. Contrary to that provision in the MDA, even when we were in the conversation around the third amendment, Mittal was importing additional containers.
for the use of our citizens on whose behalf we sign onto the NDA. Today, as I speak to you, even on the issue of health service provision, there's a huge discrimination. The expatriate staff, and I'm happy that the MITA staff are here, I'm sure they can testify to this, have access to different health facilities, while Liberians, I'm sure the NIMA citizens are here, while Liberians are relegated. These issues need to be attended to. Housing, healthcare, education. Mr. Presiding, from the business perspective, MITA concession carries 30% equity share. It means as a country, we are a shareholder in MITA concession. 30% equity share. For the last 16 years, MITA has not declared profit. Mr. President, this is the only company that is not making profit, but they are so willing to invest additional 800 million. Even while they are not making profit. But this is the point, Mr. President.
Invest 16 years while making profit.
But this is the point, Mr. President. Mr. President, this is a point to consider. That our equity share, for us to benefit from our equity share, MITA as an operator will have to declare dividend.
Exactly.
For the last 16 years, this company has not declared dividend, and so it is only on the books. It is only on the books that we have 30% equity share, but we are benefiting $0. Mr. Presiding, I want to crave your indulgence as presiding to kindly guide this conversation, because the Liberian people elected us to be able to ensure that what they are entitled to finally get to their doorsteps. In other words, for the last 16 years, this legislature has not been able to achieve that for the Liberian people. In my view, it is unfair. Having listed all these points, in addition to which I'm sure my colleague will make contribution, I want to suggest to this plenary that if our benefits from this concession relies on the report from ArcelorMittal on their books, I want to suggest, Mr. Presiding, that before we close, I hope this plenary will agree with me. We will mandate you to communicate with the GSC to start to get prepared that the books of ArcelorMittal must be open for audit.
Transparency.
Because it is only after that audit that we can be able to inform Liberians that yes, it is true that ArcelorMittal is not making profit. As though that was not enough, in the third amendment, ArcelorMittal suggested that we should reduce our equity share to 15%, even though we have not benefited from the first 30% equity share. That is for me, it is beyond disrespect. It questions the intelligence of members of this house, and it questions the intelligence and the good intent of us as government officials. I would like to draw your attention to all these points. Number one, housing. Number two, healthcare. Number three, education. Number four, our equity share. Mr. Presiding, as I close, even as we close our sitting today, if we haven't taken any decision in the interest of Nigerian people, this decision, in my opinion, Liberians will be happy with this. Let the GSC get ready, and I want to add that ArcelorMittal has the freedom to contact any international auditing firm to join ranks with the GSC to audit their books, so that we, on that basis of the finding, can inform our people that yes, they are justified for not giving or for not benefiting from our equity share. Thank you, Mr. Presiding, for this opportunity.
I think that was comprehensive enough.
Information.
Information.
Thank you, Honorable Mazikwe, for the splendid presentation. And Mr. Bizani, again, when he spoke about the issue of profitability, that was the background for which we came, and we put for a bill to have export proceed repatriation.
Amen.
Look, you cannot sack me. I come from Niku Town. I take over the from here.
But this is not information.
No, that information. Information. Mr. Bizani, you will not deny my information. The people of Niku Town brought me here to talk. You will not do that. We are saying to you to enable us to cut tax for these things. Please pass the export proceed repatriation bill. Thank you.
Information denied. I think you heard Honorable Masikwe's first the letter that was sent, and then the detailed expose by Honorable Masikwe. What is your response? Remember, you are still on the let him tell us who he designates to answer that.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, I refer to the matter to Marcus Weir. Yeah. Honorable Presiding, Honorable Members, I defer that Honorable Co-Presiding and Honorable Members, I defer that matter to my colleague, Mr. Marcus Weir.
You will talk.
Honorable Presiding, Honorable Co-Presiding, Honorable Member of the House of Representatives, when we received the citation to provide updates on our operations, we took some time to, it took us about 4 weeks completed to put together information that we felt would be relevant, because it was, and there were specifics about the employees, the environmental permits and all that and so forth. So we took the honor and liberty to present that to the office of the chief clerk. So what I have here are 3 reports which give an overview and provide additional information on our operations. The first one, and I only would like to read one because that encapsulates everything. It addresses all the points that...
Pause. The inquiry, Honorable Bourgeois.
In our communication to them, we stated that whatever report to be brought here should be made in copies that each member should have, and not for him to read from and we just listen. We needed to have copies. That's the reason why they asked for extension. The extension provided the same, he just brought a copy for the chief clerk and he reading for another copy. So we want to find out where's the copies that are intended for the members.
Honorable Presiding, Honorable Co-Presiding, Honorable Member of the House of Representatives, we delivered the report to the office of the chief clerk over a week ago. And it was our understanding we deliver 1 set of bound copies. And it was our intention to provide the full catalog of documents based upon our request for an extension. We were hoping to produce those and then deliver them. We would like to request that we can get this delivered as soon as possible in time for the Honorable House of Representatives to peruse.
Okay, Mr. Witness. The difficulty you will continue to have, and the child will continue to have is, you may spend all your time coming here every day. Okay? So we'll allow you to summarize and give the information you need. We'll also ask you to produce the relevant copies of the report and come back at subsequent time, because there may be questions to that. But while you are about to summarize the report, I want you to pay attention to certain specific things that Honorable Masipo laid there to. Number one, people living in containers. You expose more containers to them. Number two, the disparity in healthcare for Liberian staff and non-Liberian staff. Those are specific that these people brought here for. I think you should address that rather than produce some glossy report that has statistics in it. I think that will help you. So,
the road. If I
oh yes, and the issue of equities here. And just to see his specificity as it was, then we can make progress and rely on the report when it goes to them. Yeah, as he goes along, we help you along. So go ahead, address it. Yeah.
So I'm happy to report that all Honorable Presiding, Honorable Co-Presiding, Honorable Members of the House of Representatives, I'm happy to report that all the issues.
The CEO is here. Hello. The CEO is here. Can he commit now that whatever comes from the government relations will be held? Chief, the reason I'm raising the issue is simple. I have dealt with ArcelorMittal as a tax person, and now dealing with it as a lawmaker. We just need to be sure on that. That's why I asked the question. If you think it's carried, fine. But I'm just saying,
Okay, sir, please have your seat. Honorable Acting CEO, please step forward. Is it our understanding that the testimony you give and anyone you designate to give testimony on the top? That's my understanding, right?
Honorable Presiding and Honorable Co-Presiding and Honorable Members of the House of Representatives, yes, that is correct.
All right. Marcus, please. I'm sorry.
Honorable Presiding, Honorable Co-Presiding, Members of the House of Representatives, we thank you for the honor to allow us to give you an overview on our operations. So toward the end of last year, ArcelorMittal provided a detailed self-compliance report to the government of Liberia, including the Honorable Legislature. These reports and copies were also delivered to members of the House of Representatives here. If not, we are still going to add them to our badge. Following this report, the relevant government entity conducted a compliance assessment, and those reports are also available to you. And during that period, we held different engagements with the county caucuses of Bong, Grand Bassa, and Nima County on various issues that all our stakeholders had. There were 44 issues related to our operations. Now, it is easy for us to come and say we've shipped X number of tons, we will address the royalty issue. But when the people themselves speak and say these are the problems or the concerns we have with this company, and their able deputies, their representatives, and the representatives engage the company and say, you must address these issues. We sat with all the stakeholders, including county leadership, and wrote official commitments to address those issues. As part of that, we offered to provide an update, regular updates to the government of Liberia and the Honorable House of Representatives on how far we've gone. And all these actions are auditable. So what we have here, what we presented to you last week, includes this report that gives an update on all the stakeholder issues, including housing, royalty, and so forth.
It sounds like a non-responsive answer. So maybe let's do it like we at the dentist. Are people living in containers?
Talk about that. We have temporary workers living in temporary accommodation.
Describe a temporary accommodation.
Honorable Presiding, Honorable Co-Presiding, Honorable members of the House of Representatives, all our employees in Grand Bassa County and Nimba County live in company-provided housing. The temporary facilities.
You will answer the question first. After you finish answering.
The temporary.
Please answer the question. Continue on our horse.
We don't want the issue affecting. I want to expect us to represent some of them. What make them be living in boarding houses and the poor people continue will not accept it. So, the man need to provide proper information. I got a photograph, he misleading us and will not accept it.
The question of the members. You wanted him to provide. Describe temporary houses, sir.
Honorable Presiding, Honorable Co-Presiding, Honorable members of the House of Representatives.
Honorable Gray, you remain out of order. This is not a debate between me and you. The witness is answering the question. Please.
I'm interested to know the temporary time. What now?
Honorable Presiding, Honorable Co-Presiding, Honorable members of the House of Representatives, all contract employees who go to perform temporary work for ArcelorMittal are provided temporary containers, temporary accommodation, provided temporary accommodation in facilities.
Confessing. Thank God that you are confessed. The
already said that. I said just describe.
You may have confessed. Temporary continuous. Thank you, Mr. President.
Honorable Presiding, Honorable Co-Presiding, Honorable Member of the House of Representatives, you will appreciate that when a single individual is standing and there are various comments, sometimes we get a little bit off speech. So I request that please, I misspoke. So this is why I would like to restate and respond to your question. What I refer to as containers are actually temporary accommodation for contract employees. The temporary accommodation are facilities that are air conditioned. They have beds. And they are required for single accommodation for people who come to work.
Do you have a picture?
But yes, but no, I didn't come with that. But we can provide you information. So if you
next question, we would like to see a picture of it.
Observation.
We will provide that.
Observation.
We have Liberians, companies here that can build homes. The contract state, the existing contract, that you should have renovated the existing buildings that Lanco had. Why you brought a container?
No, it was observation, not a question.
My question is why you brought a container? You don't want to empower Liberians? So why you brought containers? So people renovate homes. It will be cheaper than bringing containers to our country. It's an affront to the Republic of Liberia.
Step outside and adjust yourself.
No, I will not leave for you today. Sign your out for me. Answer.
Information Honorable Smith has the floor.
Mr. Presiding, Co-Presiding, distinguished colleagues, I remember the current MDA. There's a provision that was put in there for the first time in the history of this country.
Yes.
That the housing facility, it will be constructed based on the architectural involvement of the housing authority, so as to be unique for Liberian citizen accommodation. So I just want to provide that information. So in that MDA, the current one, that provision is in there. So I wanted you to speak on that a little bit more. And you kept saying temporary. The temporary employee, how long are they temporary employee? Because there's labor law. There's a labor law that restricts the time limit for being a contractor. So I beg you, let us be transparent here. Thank you.
Yeah, please define, I will come to you and you finish. Please define a temporary worker.
Well, so Honorable Presiding, Honorable Co-Presiding, not being a legal person, I will do my best to explain that a temporary worker is someone who's hired for a fixed period of time as required by the law. So it may go up to, well, I can comment on that right, because to be honest, let me be very clear. I'm on the oath, and I just want to be careful because so that I do not give a wrong definition. Howbeit,
People go to jail, be serious. You go bring container that come up and that come up and then lady container. Then how people say this in lady container. People need to go to jail.
Information.
Honorable Presiding, Honorable Co-Presiding, Honorable members of this August Valley. I was amongst the first during the 53rd from the Labour Committee to inspect the ArcelorMittal from Bassa all the way to Yekepa. Yes. These structures, these containers, I can tell you that they airlift them when they are ready to leave. They carry them away because they are beautified and they will not leave them here. So we discussed with them that They fixed the houses that were on the floor, that were in the area, so when they are going, they can leave something for our people. We need them to fix those houses that are on the ground and not having our people living in containers. Thank you.
If you can live in container, you don't live in container. Some people not live in container at all. No.
Information sustained.
My information to the witnesses.
You must talk about the container they put living in Nima County. They're not so live in container.
Temporary. When the witness talked about temporary housing, we just want to send this information to you that from the time Metal Steel entered Nimba, those containers were there and people continue to live in those containers. And in recent time, our visit to the company, I even engaged a lady that lived in one of those containers with her children. She told me, my son, the place we live in, you have privacy is half of us. And I asked her, how long have you lived here? She said, over 3 years, she's been in that container. So for the witness to stay here and tell us that it's temporary, I think is far from the truth. And we just want to share this information with our police, our friends, that the containers that people live in, they are even more than the actual housing that Lamco left behind. So instead of wasting our time here to say that he's giving us factual information, I want to say it's far from the truth. So there's no need to waste our time to go through this issue to say that they are giving temporary shelter and what have you, when the people continue to live there over 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Okay, acting speaker, co-presiding, fellow colleagues. My inquiry has something to do with that of the acting CEO. I want to put this little inquiry to you as well as a human, because all human beings are treated fairly and we are all the same. Can you live in a continuum for 1 week?
It's temporary.
For 1 week.
It's temporary.
That's my inquiry.
It's temporary. Next question.
Mr. President, the acting manager will live in the container for 1 week. The acting manager need to go in the container for 1 week. 1 week.
Mr. President, police. My information, Mr. President, I think on a massacre daily basis, and he listed 3 or 4 points that we have to discuss. We have the general managers along with the government liaison officer, and we are here to understand issue, and these are all substantive issues. If there is question given you and you know you don't know the answer because you have told that you went for 4 weeks to prepare your document, just call the next person that they can answer the question. Instead of us here being here for the whole day without getting anything, they ask you for what do you call temporary contractors. You know, you able just call the next person that they can tell how many months it go for, instead of keeping us here for the day again. Thank you, Honorable Deputy.
Okay, it appears to me that additional information needs to be provided, that maybe we get a way forward to continue this hearing from this morning session. Is there a motion? Honorable Master Plan.
Yeah, I think so.
Mr. Presiding, co-presiding, having followed the few questions that you raised or you try to define, put it in perspective to the witnesses, and following the trend in how they are offering the responses. I just like to, before the motion, ask that before we leave, your gavel should please recapture all the points that we raised. But I just also like to say why I intend to raise a motion that this hearing be continued after we shall have returned, but while we are away, that the leadership of the House, including the statutory committees, will continue the discussion. But I'd like to add one item. And I hold on to Yaka Kuluba, who is my nephew.
Information.
Yes. Honorable Presiding, co-presiding, fellow colleagues. We are all, my colleague and my uncle talking about leadership. The same thing happened with the road fund issue when they said leadership took decision. No, Mr. Presiding, please. Mr. Presiding, please. We were not here when the road fund issue happened. The finance minister said leadership giving instruction. He made a specific reference to Thomas Fowler in the speaker. So we don't want it to be like one plenary take a decision, let it be handled by plenary, not leadership. Because when anything happens, we will be responsible, we'll be pouring out there, and at the end of the day, the situation will be brought on us, and leadership will not be able to defend us in our various district. That's what I mean.
Okay, I think the clarification for Honorable Masegwa is leadership will coordinate all of the information necessary for the next appearance. We'll review the documents. We'll tell them what documents we need, whether that document is sufficient, and to the point where it becomes sufficient information, we're ready for them to appear, then we'll schedule that appearance. We will not boycott or bypass plenaries right to hear and assess the information.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. People need to go to jail.
Honorable
With jail, put down for you continue.
Having said that, I move, if I can be seconded, Mr. President, that all the issues that we raised, including the quality of housing for the staff, and that includes Liberians, and the issue of education, plus the issue of healthcare. Healthcare meaning the provision of healthcare and the equitability of the provision of healthcare, considering that it should be not discriminatory, plus the issue of water and sanitation. As it stands, that Mittal is still providing mineral water in the absence of in the wake of the inability to rehabilitate the water treatment center. To conclude is the issue of our Liberian ownership in this investment, which is our equity share. With that said, I move that discussion around this issue be continued in full plenary after we shall have returned. But while we are on break, that the leadership will coordinate all the processes leading to the gathering of all the relevant information, and that the leadership will bring this issue back on the floor after we shall have returned at whatever time, maybe in October, following our schedule, and this issue will be resolved in plenary, just as the issue of the contempt is still lingering until we come back. I will move that this issue be treated as such, if I can obtain a second.
So second. Okay, as we move and seconded that the hearing on Mittal's appearance be continued at such date and time set by leadership when we shall return, and our leadership coordinate the relevant information that plenary will need to ask questions and make relevant decisions. Are you ready to vote? Ready. On readiness, Honorable Zaza.
Mr. Speaker, co-presiding fellow colleagues, I will be ready to vote when moving to act on the documents and to the requested documents on the recent audited financial statements, because the investments that are made, business means profit. How will a company operate in 4, 5, 6 years without profit, and they are still adding, they are still increasing the investment? So I know that if they do investments, whatever money that is made available, additional money, whatever money they made to recoup it, they have this they amortize it. But still, in that case, let us see the audited financial statement that has given them right, or that convinced us that they are still losing and we are not getting anything as shareholders. So, an audited financial statement. Yes.
The first time they're thinking in the proper order.
Mr. President, colleagues, to the moment, I will be ready to vote if my task team can start the importation of the pre-fact building into Yekepa and start putting people into those buildings as the core until this issue can be fully addressed by plenary. I'll be ready to vote.
Already.
Well, I think, Mr. Presiding, there's a motion that the leadership will have continue interaction with the ArcelorMittal, and I would think that such a decision should be after we have returned, following the conclusion of all these investigations.
Already, that's already also one week.
Presiding, co-presiding, distinguished colleagues, to the movement, I will be ready to vote if the leadership, while we are on break, the leadership in their process of coordination, they can have GAC contacted to add to what our learner colleague from Sano, Honorable Zada, has proposed, that audited report that GAC can have that input into that process. I will be ready to vote.
Accept.
Already, that's Honorable Young, then Honorable.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding, co-presiding. Mr. Movement, I will be ready to vote if it can be unequivocally stated that while this issue say lingers on after ArcelorMittal remains under contempt, we want it to be stated in a clarion form so that no dubiety will be there. So I will be ready to vote if it can be clearly stated that they are still under contempt.
Well, Mr. Presiding, you separated the issues. For the best of my recollection, it was said in that separate motion that the contempt hearing is inconclusive, and that contempt hearing will continue after we shall return. And so I take it that it should be understood that there was no decision on whether holding a contempt or not. It means that charge is still hanging. But being that it was a separate motion, I take it that understanding is there clearly. So while I support the idea that it's hanging, but it's a separate motion, and that motion concluded that the contempt is still in motion until as such that when we shall return, a decision will be made.
That's correct.
So I will not say yes or no, but that's process.
Readiness Honorable Cole. Honorable Deputy Speaker and presiding officer for presiding Honorable Movement. Having come from low
So coming up next is the official statement by
were
the
you
Deputy
to
Speaker
accept
of the House of Representatives,
the simplest amendment. Now, why ArcelorMittal is going to contend that our people who brought us here and they expect that we should represent them properly should not be placed in containers, and while leadership is handling the issue with them, every decision from leadership should be referred to plenary, in open plenary, to brief plenary about the outcome of the conversation for ArcelorMittal. You know that you're from Lofa County and Pong County, very close to you. Thank you. Honorable Presiding, in two folds, the issue of the continuing issue is a subject of continued investigation. On the issue of the leadership coming back to plenary after we should have returned, on that aspect, obviously I said because I was in emotion. The issue of the continuing is subject of investigation, and I was.
Honorable Presiding, co-presiding, distinguished colleagues, to the moment I will be ready to vote if the movement can accept this simple amendment that ArcelorMittal provide full financial disclosure for their operations over the 16 years.
Well, I think that was saying in another way that there will be an audited financial report, and we even mandated the leadership to get in immediate contact with GSC, that if need be, GSC will be added to make sure we investigate our expenditures. So, yes, what I said.
All those in favor, I say aye. Opposed, no. The chief clerk will show the Sir, let the acting CEO approach. Let the acting CEO approach. I just want to summarize for you what has happened so we can have clarity. And my office and the chief clerk office will be willing to help to provide guidance for what is required. There was specific, on the issue of content, there's a specific request for medical certification that doctor said I treated this patient during this period. Okay, that will suffice. That needs to be returned. So the content hearing is continued until such time that we notify you. On the issue of the substantive matter for which you presented, there have been specific questions we want you to answer. And if you want to produce reports, we're not just talking about reports that you have provided generically for shareholders or for government officials. This report contains the quality of housing, healthcare, education, environment. And those reports need to be followed by both written and pictorial evidence, because as you see here today, we asked your staff, do you have a picture of the temporary housing? He said, I do not. So that for you is a guidance on the kind of report we need. We need reports specific to what was discussed here and requested here. He started off by saying the community provided 44 questions, that we are not interested in those 44 questions. We have the report of that. We need the specific questions here answered. So on that note, we will discharge the witnesses. They are on oath until such time as the contempt hearing is over and their appearance is declared over by this plenary. We'll ask the sergeant at arms to escort them outside.
People must go to jail for abusing the Liberian people. People must go to jail for abusing the Liberian people. People need to go to jail. People can keep our people in containers. People can keep our people in containers. They must go to jail. As well as the acting manager, so you can go spend 2 weeks in the container. Let me see how you will feel.
As we telling the truth, they will post tension on you and say you did, you died. That's why you want to go to the post tension.
So, folks, this is how we wrap it up right here on today's edition for the appearance of the ArcelorMittal management, and this is the council. That's the legal council. So, thank you so much for watching. My name is Winston Bladden, and here is the Deputy Sergeant at Arms and the Acting Sergeant at Arms of the House of Representatives. Thank you so much for watching. The Deputy Speaker will now
but then you gotta be around. Yeah. The what? It's on the agenda. Yeah. It's on the agenda. Executive, we're coming back. I'm voting for you, Mr. Speaker. I don't know that Zaza, Matthew Zaza, you go eat for Papa Chima. He can't eat for you, trying to vote, go for Papa Chima. I'm coming in fire. Yeah.